Hello everyone, welcome to my second webinar on facilitating group counseling sessions, brushing up on your skills. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry about the difficulties for those who had tuned in earlier, but as you know, this is still in its teething pain, so we will have the requisite issues. Now, I am going to be talking to you about facilitating group counseling sessions. Remember that this is a breaking cycle event, and as such, I'll be sharing my presentation with you now. Sharing my screen. Okay. Now, Breaking Cycles is a company that I have, and these are some of the services we offer. We offer personal career and financial coaching, release technique, conflict management session, and biofeedback. And these services can be accessed online. We also offer assessment, writing, and training. And under this heading, we offer psychoeducational assessment, interpersonal skills training, writing of manuals, program writing, spiritual empowerment sessions, workshop coordination, and so forth. We also offer group counseling sessions, interpersonal skills training, group training, staff development sessions, seminars, etc. So if you would like to access any of these services, please give me a call and let me know. Now, the thought that I would leave with you today is iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. And this is taken from Proverbs 27, verse 17. Now, the reason why I chose this thought was because we are focusing on group counseling sessions, and it's important to know that with group counseling, it is a process. It's a group process. It's not about any one individual, but it is persons coming together with common issues, working towards a common cause. So this thought is very important to keep in mind. Now, as we begin, I would like to share a little video with you to work on the whole concept of iron sharpening iron, working together. This video is called The Power of Unity. I did. She says. All right. So I hope you gain the general concept from this video, where group counseling is all about unity being strength. Now let's recap our last webinar that we had on expanding horizons through group counseling facilitation. For those who tuned in, you would have known that we had covered these points. For those who didn't get a chance to watch that webinar, you may access it on the Breaking Cycles page on YouTube. Now, support groups are often referred as self-help groups, and they are groups of people who gather to share common problems and experiences associated with a particular problem, condition, illness, or personal circumstance. So we had discussed this in our last webinar. We had gone over the definition, We had spoken about the characteristics of a support group, why create a support group, and the steps in starting a support group. Now let's look at facilitating a support group, looking at the group counseling process through the eyes of a facilitator. Now, what are some of the qualifications of being a facilitator for a support group? Do you need a PhD? Do you need a master's? Well, it would be good if you have those qualifications and skills. But here are some qualifications that are necessary for starting a support groups. So you don't necessarily need all those accolades and qualifications, but if you have the following, then you are qualified to conduct your own or facilitate your own support group. Now, I have had an experience in being a support group facilitator, and I recognize the need to have good organizational skills. I remember when the concept came about, when I really wanted to help guidance counselors in coping with the issues they face in their daily jobs. I had to do a lot of research, which is good research. I had to ensure that I got my proper informed consent form. I had written my agenda. I had to ensure that I had progress notes. I had to look about the whole venue and setting up the payments for the venue and so forth. So as a group counseling facilitator, you have to have good organizational skills. The next attribute is a positive attitude. Now, if you're negative as the facilitator, can you imagine how that would impact your group members? So it is very important to exude a positive energy, a positive vibe, because you will find that as a facilitator that your members feed off your energy. So you have to ensure that you exude that positive energy for group counseling facilitation. You have to be respectful, warm, genuine, and calm when facing conflict. If you're a person who avoids conflict, or you freak out whenever there is a conflict in play, then you have to really think about it, because you are the person who is setting the trend and setting the mode of the group counseling session. So you have to ensure that during the conflict you have to be calm. You have to ensure that while you're having your group counseling sessions, you are respectful, you are warm, and most important, you have to be genuine. You have to be an active listener. It is not about your group members listening to you and your thoughts or what you think. It is more about, being the listener, taking in all that information that the clients or the group members have to share with you and share with each other. So you have to listen out. You have to listen out for, nonverbal cues and verbal cues. It's the same thing with being attentive, because you have to look for nonverbal communication to see how the person is sitting, how the person is acting, as well as what the person is saying. How you can really tap into that process as the facilitator to enrich the counseling experience. Now, patience is very important. Like tonight, in order to do this webinar, I had to be very patient. It is necessary. Patience is something that is necessary when you're doing your group counseling session. Sometimes persons may not be forthcoming with their thoughts or their idea, and as such, you have to ensure that you are patient with that process and not try to speed it up or hurry it. Now, you have to possess some experience with group counseling. As guidance counselors, we have access to clientele within the school setting, and as such, we should be doing group counseling session with the clients there. So it's a good area to hone our facilitation skills, so that when we are starting our support groups with adults and other clientele within our communities or church setting, we have that experience going into the self-help group. Now, you have to have enough time to perform the tasks. Sometimes when you have your group, you give them activities to do, and you can't rush the process. You have to be very patient with this process. Now, you need to access the needed resources to run the group. You have to probably go online, search for information. You have to find persons who have venues. Sometimes they can give you for free if they buy into the cause. So wherever you can access resources, it is necessary for you to try to do this. No, you have to be willing to refer when necessary. This is good of any facilitator or counselor, because we're not able to handle everything. If you see within the group that there are certain things that is happening that you're not able to manage, it is very important for you to refer. And you should be able to facilitate balanced discussions. Lead the discussion, but do not dominate it. Confidentiality is very important. I can't overemphasize this enough. As a facilitator, you have to ensure that you maintain whatever is discussed within the group session, the setting. We all know that there are certain constraints to confidentiality, like if a person is endorsing suicidal ideation or intent, then we have to, refer to the relevant authorities. Maintain group attendance records, like your progress notes, the amount of times that persons are coming, and so forth. Because we know that within the group counseling sessions, if you have a member who just comes haphazardly, then it can really mess up the momentum of the group. You have to be honest. You should be willing to admit if you don't know an answer to a question, but we're willing to commit to finding out. So it's okay to say to your clients, I really don't know the answer to what you've asked me, but I'll be sure to research it and get back to you. Now, based on the qualifications that I've outlined earlier, are you qualified? Do you think you're qualified? I should think so in many instances, that you will be qualified and you will do a fantastic job as a support group facilitator. Now, something to consider. Oftentimes, it can be very intimidating to facilitate a group on our own, and it is good to do co-facilitation. I have a very good handout that I can share with you. Just drop me an email at www.breakingcyclesforchange@gmail.com, and I will be sure to send you a copy. You can also send me your email in the comment section. Now, deciding on an approach. There are several approaches that you can utilize within your group counseling session. One such approach is the solution-focused approach, where you define the situation. What is the problem that we are focusing on this group? Is it self-esteem issues? Is it depression? Is it ADHD? Is it caregivers for persons who are tending to individuals who are sick with dementia or Alzheimer's or so forth? Brainstorm solutions within that session. Test the solutions, meaning that after you've discussed the solutions within that self-help group, you could ask them to go ahead and do an out-of-session assignment in testing the solution. In your next session, you can assess the results. Was it helpful? What were some of the experiences you had? As the facilitator, you can gain feedback and assess the results. If it's not working, then you can encourage them to try another solution and start over. And remember to always be honest. Now, some other approaches, you have the conversational discussion style, where persons can just pipe into the discussion and speak. However, the drawback to this technique is that some persons may do all the talking while others may not talk at all. So in using this style, you have to be very careful of ensuring that everybody gets a chance to speak. You have taking turns, which is a style that I had utilized where each person got an equal opportunity to speak within the session. So you may say, I will start clockwise or counterclockwise, and it will allow each person to speak. Following a script or prescribed agenda was a technique that I had used in my group counseling session with the guidance counselors, and I can show you one of my session agendas. Now, it started out with my objectives. One, as you can see, I had my session procedures. I had a prayer to welcome, the icebreaker, which was finish the sentence. Then I clarified the purpose of the group. Then the rules and guidelines and the confidentiality clause for the group, the signing of the informed consent form, the trust building exercise that I utilized. Then group members were able to share their personal goals and expectations for group counseling. Then they summarized, and we had an out of session activity where I asked them to reflect on some of the personal challenges they encounter as a guidance counselor. Then I ended the session by saying what stood out about today's session. So this is an example. Let me find back my slide. This is an example of following a script or prescribed agenda. Then you have listening pairs where persons can sit in pairs and you ascribe the listener and the speaker, and they practice to listen to each other's problem and to provide solutions. There are various approaches that can be utilized. Now, facilitating the group as the facilitator. Now, you have to prepare for the meeting. Remember, if you are not prepared, it shows. You have to be prepared and organized for your meeting, or else your group members will figure out that something is not going well based on the lack of flow within the session. Now, prepare the room for the meeting. Most persons tend to use the semicircular setup, which is one that I would recommend because you're able to see each group member at a very good angle. Now you start the meeting by giving the preliminary introductions and information about the group. You have them sign in the forms and so forth for the first session. You establish the guidelines for the group, which is very important. Very, very important. If guidelines aren't established, then you know that the group can be significantly disrupted because persons don't have a framework to work from. And remember to always offer support. Now remember to encourage members to listen to each other. Sometimes you have members who dominate or they joke out the session, and you have to remember that you have to remind them that they should listen to each other. Some persons may be talking at the same time, and we all know that that is counterproductive. So it's a good time to remind them, just listen to each other, which if you had said it in your guidelines from day one, then you could always point to it. Jane, remember, in our guidelines and rules for the group, we said that you should listen to each other. Now, encourage members to talk about themselves. There are persons who may be shy and withdrawn. So you may say, so Sally, tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit more about what you're experiencing. You can also help members to solve problems within the group setting, and then you close the meeting. So this is one of the ways that you can facilitate your group counseling session. Now, let's look at group dynamics. Now, the term group dynamics describes the way in which people in a group interact with one another. When dynamics are positive, the group works well together. When dynamics are poor, the group's effectiveness is reduced. So you have to ensure that you're maintaining a positive group dynamic within your group. Now, what are some of the reasons why the group dynamic may be poor? It could be problems can come from weak leadership. If you're not assertive enough as a leader and you allow your members to take over, it can become counterproductive. Sometimes you have too much deference to authority. Sometimes you can be so dominant within the session that persons feel like they may need to look to you to speak. Now, it's not good to have that happening. Sometimes there's blocking happening, groupthink or free riding, among many other things. Now, some adapted roles in poor group dynamics. You have the aggressor. This person often disagrees with others or is inappropriately outspoken. You have the negator. This group member is often critical of others' ideas. And you have to be, if you see that these personalities are coming out within your group, you have to reassess your whole role and way of doing things. You have the withdrawer, and this person doesn't participate in the session. Always look out for these personalities, because even in a proactive group, you may have somebody who's withdrawn and they're not easily able to speak. You need to find questions to elicit a response from them so that they can participate in the group. You have the recognition seeker, and this group member is boastful or dominates the session. The joker. This person introduces humor at inappropriate times. So you have to be very aware of these dynamics within the group. Now, some strategies for improving group dynamics. One, you should know your team. You should tackle the problems quickly. So don't allow the situation to escalate before you tackle it. If you're actively listening and you're attentive, you should be able to see or preempt sometimes the problems that will arise. If you don't preempt it, then based on your observation of the group dynamics, you may be, as the problems arise, you can tackle it. Now, define the roles and responsibilities. That is very important. Setting guidelines from the beginning will help you break down barriers. So sometimes there are barriers within the group, like communication barriers. You can explore these barriers and help persons to move on from them. Focus on communication. Some persons may not be expressing themselves very well, so you can teach them a communication method such as iMessage. And remember, it is important to pay attention. Now, remember, the key to becoming the most effective facilitator is to research, 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 and get some, check out. Now, I have some useful resources below. Here they are. I will try to place them in the link below under this webinar as soon as possible. Now, I would like to welcome Mrs. Tracy Ann Taft Thompson. Welcome her to our webinar. Yeah. Now, let me stop sharing my screen for a bit so you can see us. Welcome, Tracy. Welcome to our webinar, Tracy.
Thank you, Jody. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
It's finally happening.
I know, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, I have some questions for Tracy because Tracy was a part of the self-help group that I had, as well as, so she's here in the role of a person who had experienced a group, and she has benefited from the group, as well as a guidance counselor who is intending to facilitate a support group. Now, Tracy, do you feel that support groups are important within the Jamaican community?
Of course. I believe that it is needed in the Jamaican society because of the different issues that our people really are going through. So I found that there are benefits to it. The first one is it allows each person to realize that, you know, the problem you're going through or the stress that you're encountering or the challenge you're encountering isn't unique to you. There are other persons there. And when you find that happening, you tend to look at your issue from a different perspective and a different angle. For me personally, I see where once it was established that the environment was safe, then it allowed me to feel free to express myself. And then I realized that other participants, they too found it a trusted environment and freely shared and expressed. And a lot of people in Jamaica are not expressing themselves honestly. I think we are the greatest pretenders there are. And in these groups, you find that they are more honest with themselves and with other people. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what are some of the issues that school-age children face, which would be best dealt with in a support group setting?
Okay. I have used the support group setting in my school, and I use it for three main types of students. The students who are being bullied because they feel that they're the only persons who are being targeted, and they're not sure how to even respond to the bullying level. But when they're in a support group where others are being bullied, they form a little network of their own, and they develop strategies too on their own. Of course, I just basically guide it. I also see that persons who are suffering from low self-esteem, I've realized that they help to build each other. When you just teach them one or two techniques, but mostly they gain strength from each other. So the persons who are suffering from low self-esteem and the persons who are being bullied, and one more group is the students who are having family issues. You have different types of families, you have different issues arising in the families that affect the children, and they're not able to talk because then they will feel like something is wrong with them when really the issue is not them. So those are the students and the groups that I find it works with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, how can support group facilitation assist in the growth and development of guidance counselors?
Growth and development of guidance counselors. We always think that we know everything, but to be honest, we don't know everything. And some of the things we know, but being a group facilitator, we get to practice what we know in theory. So we have to practice being patient. We have to practice being tolerant because some of the viewpoints is a free space where people get to express themselves. So we have to be tolerant of the levels of expression that will come out. As well as it helps with a lot of organizing. You have to be a great organizer. During your facilitation, you had sent and emailed us quite a few material on more than one occasion. So variety, two ways is spice of life. So we had to do, I'm sure you had to do research based on our needs and individual as well as collective group needs. So you have to be very organized. You have to be flexible. Yeah, you have to be very patient and tolerant. Yeah, and not be judgmental. You can't have a judgmental countenance at all.
Okay. Now, what message would you like to share with the guidance counselors viewing on this webinar about support group facilitation?
Okay. My short, small message is that small group therapy is an effective tool that can be used in the school setting as well as for adults or among colleagues. It is good that we're able to freely express ourselves, and we need more avenues, more spaces where we're able to freely express without being judged or condemned. So I fully endorse it. It works for many issues, and peer group, peer support is good. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy, for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we have word from our sponsors. Now, before we get the word from our sponsors, I would like to tell you that if you're interested in starting your support group in collaboration with my company, Breaking Cycles, you may contact me at breakingcyclesforchange@gmail.com or via telephone at 472-4323, or you can check out my website at www.breakingcyclesja.com. Please remember to subscribe to this channel because we'll have exciting webinars. I'll be opening the group soon, and we will be doing webinars for the public pretty soon. Now, thanks for watching my presentation, and remember to get a copy of my book, A Group Counseling Guideline for Primary School Students Dealing with Anger, as well as our sponsor. I would like to thank our sponsors, Dojo's Juices.
Very good. It's very refreshing.
Get your Strongback from Dojo's Juices.
Not only
it is fantastic. It's delicious. Tracy said it's not only strong, but fantastic.
Yes.
To get your Strongback, you may contact Dojo's Juices at 876-561-0933. Let me say goodbye. Okay. Tracy and I would like to say goodbye to you.
Bye, Region 1.
Bye, Region 1. Thanks for watching.